The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden glow over the rolling hills of Red Bluff, California. It was the summer of 1977, a time when hitchhiking was still a common means of travel. As a young and carefree 20-year-old, I found myself on the side of the road, thumb outstretched, hoping for a ride to a friend's party. Time seemed to stretch as I stood there, anticipation mingling with a sense of adventure. And then a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon. A blue van approached, the engine humming softly. The sight of the couple inside, accompanied by a child in the back seat, put me at ease. They seemed like ordinary people, the kind you could trust. With an air of familiarity, the van came to a halt and the door slid open. The husband, Colleen Hooker, extended a friendly hand and offered me a smile that concealed a dark intent. His wife, Jan, sat beside him, her gaze carefully neutral. Little did I know that beneath their seemingly benign facade, a nightmare was about to unfold. As we sped along the winding roads, the hum of the engine became an ominous soundtrack to my mounting unease. And then, in one swift motion, Cameron's hand darted towards me, a glint of steel catching the sunlight, a cold blade pressed against my throat, a cruel reminder of the vulnerability that lay beneath my seemingly safe circumstances. The van veered off the beaten path, the tires crunching on the gravel as we entered a deserted area. The isolation only heightened my fear, the desolation mirroring the darkness that now enveloped my spirit. With a sinister smirk, Cameron revealed his true nature, unleashing upon me a horrifying torment. He dragged me out of the van, my legs trembling beneath me. His grip tightened around my arm, forcing me to follow his sadistic lead. And then, in a macabre twist of fate, I found myself face to face with the embodiment of my worst nightmares, a coffin-sized box. It stood before me, a menacing symbol of captivity that awaited me. The box became my prison, my existence confined to its suffocating confines for 22 to 23 hours each agonizing day. The air grew stale, and time lost all meaning as the hours blurred into an endless torment. I was subjected to unimaginable cruelty, my tormentor stripping away my humanity, renaming me K, a mere object to be possessed. The hookers reveled in their role as puppeteers, pulling at the strings of my shattered psyche. Amidst the horrors they inflicted, they paradoxically exhibited a tender love towards their young daughter. It was a twisted spectacle, a dance between affection and cruelty that left me bewildered and broken. K, Cameron would sneer, his voice laced with sadistic delight. You're nothing but a piece of furniture, a thing to be used. His words cut deeper than any physical wound, a constant reminder of my subjugation. And then one chilling day, he pushed a loaded gun into my trembling hands. Stick it in your mouth, he commanded, his eyes gleaming with a malicious glint. I complied, a puppet in his twisted theater of power, the metallic taste of the gun's cold barrel on my tongue, the weight of my life hanging in the balance. It was a test of loyalty, a cruel game designed to further break my spirit. But as I pulled the trigger and the hammer clicked against an empty chamber, I have realized I might belong to them now. 4 years have passed now. The wheels of the car carried us down familiar roads, leading me back to the place I once called home. It has been several years since I last set foot in this town, since I last embraced my family. And now, as we approached the house, a mix of anticipation and dread churned within me. The front door swung open, and there they were, my parents, their faces etched with worry and relief. Their hugs enveloped me, pulling me into a world I had longed for, but one that now felt so foreign. Their love was palpable, their ignorance of my torment, a blessing and a curse. I can't believe you're here, Colleen, my mother exclaimed, her voice filled with a mixture of joy and confusion. We missed you so much. Why didn't you tell us you were coming? I hesitated, my eyes shifting from my parents to the sinister figure standing beside me. Cameron's presence loomed, a constant reminder that my escape from this nightmare was only temporary. I wanted to surprise you, I managed to stammer, my words a feeble attempt to conceal the truth. As the night waned and the morning sun cast its golden rays, my heart sank. The time had come for me to leave the safety of my family's embrace and return to the clutches of my captor. A deep ache settled within me, the weight of their unconditional love battling against the chains that bound me to this life of darkness. "I have to go," I whispered to my parents, my voice tinged with regret and desperation. They pleaded with me to stay, their eyes brimming with tears, but I knew the consequences of defiance. I had tasted the full force of Cameron's wrath, and the thought of his retribution sent shivers down my spine. With a heavy heart, I walked towards the waiting van, my footsteps betraying a deep sense of resignation. As the door closed behind me, my family's anguished cries echoed in my ears, amplifying the magnitude of the decision I had just made. I was returning to the box, to the darkness that had become my reality. The passage of time was marked by the relentless cycle of torment, but within the heart of my captor's accomplice, a flicker of compassion began to grow. Jan Hooker, a woman who had been both a bystander and a participant in my suffering, found herself questioning the morality of her actions. One evening, as the moon cast a silvery glow upon the box that held me captive, Jan approached with a glimmer of determination in her eyes. "Colleen," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "I can't do this anymore. I can't stand by and watch you suffer." Her words cut through the suffocating darkness, and a surge of hope pulsed through my veins. Jan had come to realize the depths of her own complicity, and now she sought redemption, not only for my sake, but for her own fractured soul. Together we forged a plan, a dangerous gamble that would test our resolve. The moon hung high in the midnight sky, casting a pale glow upon our clandestine operation. Heart pounding, every breath a calculated risk, I stood at the precipice of liberation. Jen and I had devised a plan, a daring escape from the clutches of our tormentor. In the dead of night, we moved with the stealth of shadows, navigating the labyrinth corridors of captivity. Each step carried the weight of uncertainty, the fear of discovery, but our determination burned bright, guiding us through the darkness. As we approached the exit, the creak of a door echoed through the silence. Panic threatened to consume me, but Jan's steady gaze anchored me. "Keep going, Colleen," she whispered, her voice laced with a newfound resolve. "We're almost there." The cool night embraced us as we emerged into the realm of freedom, our hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. We hurriedly made our way to a nearby phone booth, hands trembling as we dialed the number that would summon the forces of justice. The seconds felt like an eternity as we awaited the arrival of the authorities, our eyes darting nervously, anticipating the reappearance of our captor. And then the distant wail of sirens cut through the stillness, a symphony of rescue. The sound of footsteps grew louder, the clatter of boots against pavement a harbinger of impending reckoning. Flashlights danced through the night, illuminating the shadows that had held us captive for far too long. As I lay in my cozy bedroom in Salt Lake City, Utah, little did I know that the serenity of my slumber was about to be violently shattered. The moonlight cast an ethereal glow through the curtains, painting dancing shadows on the walls. The room exuded a sense of calm, a sanctuary from the outside world, but fate had other plans for me. A sudden gust of cold wind, causing me to stir from my dreams. Confusion and fear took hold of me as I found myself face to face with a menacing figure, his eyes burning with a twisted intensity. It was Brian David Mitchell, the man who would soon become my captor. "Get up, you're coming with me," Mitchell's voice hissed, cutting through the silence like a knife. His words dripped with malice, and his predatory gaze left me paralyzed with terror. I could barely comprehend the nightmare that was unfolding before me. With a trembling heart, I reluctantly followed Mitchell into the moonlight night. The air was crisp and filled with the scent of pine, a stark contrast to the suffocating fear that gripped my soul. We ventured into the darkness, his grip tightening on my arm with every step as if to ensure my compliance. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity as we trudged through the rugged terrain. The moon above provided the only source of light, casting an eerie glow on the twisted trees and jagged rocks that loomed around us. I could feel the unforgiving ground beneath my bare feet, rough and unforgiving, a constant reminder of my vulnerable state. Finally, we reached a secluded campsite, hidden away from prying eyes. A flickering fire danced in the center, casting distorted shadows on the faces of my captors. There I was met by Mitchell's wife, Wanda Barzee, a woman who appeared to be a willing participant in this macabre charade. Her hollow eyes held a flicker of madness, her crooked smile revealing a set of decaying teeth. She ordered me to undress, stripping away not just my clothes, but also any remnants of my dignity. I felt exposed and violated, a puppet at their mercy. The following 9 months became a relentless barrage of physical and psychological abuse. Mitchell's manipulative tactics sought to break my spirit, to mold me into a docile and subservient partner in their deranged partnership. I clung to my survival instincts, trying to appease the terrible couple who had ripped me away from life. In the midst of this twisted captivity, an odd paradox emerged. We ventured out into public spaces, blending into the crowds with an unsettling normalcy. The library became a facade of education, the local stores mere stages for our morbid play. Despite being questioned by a police officer, I chose to remain silent, to hide my true identity, to preserve the illusion of obedience. In the midst of our captive existence, an unsettling routine began to take shape. Mitchell, Barzee, and I ventured out into the world, masquerading as an ordinary trio. The world outside became a stage, and we were the actors playing our twisted roles with a sickening sense of normalcy. The library, with its shelves lined with knowledge and its hushed whispers, became our sanctuary of deceit. It was there, amidst the scent of old books and the creaking floors, that our facade continued. Barzee, her voice tinged with vain enthusiasm, urged me to choose a book to keep up appearances, but the pages held no solace. They only served as a cruel reminder of the world I had lost. Local stores, bustling with life and unaware of the horrors we concealed, became our haunting grounds. The sweet scent of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, mingling with the heavy aroma of coffee beans. It was as if the world around me was oblivious to my suffering. Consumed by its own mundane affairs, I felt like a ghost, invisible and trapped in a nightmare of my own making. One day, as we strolled through the aisles of a crowded store, an unexpected encounter jolted me out of my passive compliance. A police officer, his uniform a symbol of authority and protection, approached me with a curious gaze. "Excuse me, miss, have we met before? You look familiar," the officer inquired, his voice laced with suspicion. My heart raced, panic threatening to consume me. This was my chance to escape, to break free from the clutches of my captors. I hesitated for a moment, weighing the consequences of revealing my true identity, but fear gripped me, and I chose to remain silent, offering only a timid smile in response. The officer shrugged, his doubt momentarily assuaged, and moved on. In that moment, I realized the fragility of my own resolve, the tight grip my captors had on my psyche. As time wore on, the balance of power within our twisted triangle began to shift. Mitchell, driven by his self-proclaimed godliness, saw himself as the puppet master, pulling the strings of our lives. But in a rare moment of clarity, I saw an opportunity, a glimmer of hope amidst the darkness. Utah had been our initial home, the backdrop of my captivity. It was a place that held memories of my life before the nightmare, a place where I still had a chance to find salvation. Gathering every ounce of courage, I approached Mitchell, appealing to his distorted sense of spirituality. "Brian, I've had a revelation," I began, my voice trembling with a carefully crafted mix of sincerity and manipulation. "We must return to Utah for spiritual reasons. It is the place where your divine purpose can truly be realized." Mitchell's eyes widened, a spark of diluted excitement igniting within them. He saw my suggestion as his own divine inspiration, the grand plan he had been waiting for. Little did he know that it was my plea for freedom concealed beneath a cloak of religious devotion. "Yes, Elizabeth, you are right. Utah is the place. It has always been my calling," Mitchell declared, his voice carrying the fervor of a self-proclaimed prophet. And so the wheels were set in motion for our journey back to the place that held both torment and the sliver of hope. The morning of February 4th, 1974, was one of those eerie winter days when the air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding. As I opened the door to my apartment on 2603 Benvenue Street in Berkeley, California, I could feel an unexplained chill creeping up my spine. Just as the sun timidly peeked through the gray clouds, a sudden commotion shattered the tranquility of my home. Before I could react, a cacophony of harsh voices echoed through the hallway, their chilling words filling the air with malevolence. I turned towards the sound, my heart pounding, only to find myself face to face with a group of gun-wielding individuals. Terror filled the room, gripping my soul in its icy clutches. Amidst the chaos, my fiancé, the love of my life, bravely tried to protect me, but these intruders showed no mercy. Their blows rained down upon him, his cries of pain mingling with menacing laughter of our assailants. Helplessly, I watched as he crumbled to the floor, his battered body a testament to the violence that had consumed our lives in an instant. And then it was my turn. Strong hands seized me, their grip unyielding as they dragged me towards the trunk of a waiting car. Panic surged through my veins, my heart pounding against my ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. In that terrifying moment, I realized that my life would never be the same again. The car roared to life, its engine a discordant symphony of mechanical fury. I was thrown into the confined darkness of the trunk, the metallic scent of fear mingling with the scent of gasoline that hung heavy in the air. As the vehicle hurled forward, my mind raced, desperately grasping at the fragments of reality that still remained. The car was carrying me further and further away from everything I had ever known. In the suffocating darkness, I felt a mix of despair and determination. Would I ever see the familiar faces of my loved ones again, or was I destined to be forever lost in this nightmare? It wasn't until later that the true identity of my captors was revealed: the Symbionese Liberation Army, or SLA, a name that would forever be etched in the annals of infamy. Their twisted mission, their insatiable hunger for power and destruction, had led them to me. I was nothing more than a pawn in their deadly game, a bargaining chip in their quest for chaos. The world had already labeled me as a victim, a helpless pawn in the hands of terrorists. But little did they know that I would soon defy their expectations and shock them all with an audacious twist of fate. It was in the crisp April air that I made my announcement, forever altering the course of my life and the perception of my captors. As the dust settled from the chaos of the kidnapping, I found myself surrounded by the face of my captors, the members of the Symbionese Liberation Army. The dingy room we occupied was a stark contrast to the comfortable life I had once known. The peeling wallpaper and dimly lit space seemed to mirror the uncertainty that had consumed my soul. But within those walls, a transformation began to take hold. The conversations I had with my captors, heated and impassioned, sparked a spark of curiosity within me. I found myself drawn to their radical ideologies, their fiery determination to challenge the status quo. They believed in a revolution, and in their eyes I saw an opportunity to rewrite my own narrative. I refused to be a mere hostage, I declared, my voice filled with newfound conviction. I will join your cause. I will become a revolutionary. The room fell silent, their eyes fixed upon me. A mix of surprise and skepticism etched on their faces. The leader of the SLA, his presence commanding, studied me intently. "Are you prepared for the sacrifices, the risks that come with this path?" he asked, his voice laced with a blend of caution and intrigue. I met his gaze, unflinching. "I am ready to fight, to challenge the very foundations of the society that has oppressed us all." And so it began. The boundaries between captor and captive blurred as I immersed myself in their world, shredding my former identity like a snake shedding its skin. The line between reality and illusion became increasingly hazy as we plotted our next move. The thrill of rebellion coursed through my veins as we meticulously planned our daring escapades. The bank became our canvas, and our actions a brazen stroke against the establishment. Clad in black, with masks concealing our identities, we stormed the bank, our footsteps echoing with purpose. Inside, the air crackled with tension, the scent of fear mingling with the musk of money. Our demands were clear as we faced the trembling bank employees. "This is a revolution. We will take what is rightfully ours." With each passing moment, my heart pounded in rhythm with the adrenaline surging through my body, the raw power of our actions, the sense of righteous defiance. As I clutched the stolen currency, I couldn't help but wonder if this was the path to freedom or the depths of darkness. The bank robbery ignited a frenzy in the media, headlines splattered with our names and the audacity of our deeds. The nation watched, their eyes fixated on the unfolding drama that was our lives. We became outlaws, hunted and pursued across the vast expanse of the country. Stretching out before us like an uncertain path, motel rooms and safe houses became our temporary homes, our hearts always on guard. The tension within our ranks grew, our unity tested by the constant pressure of life on the run. And yet, amidst the chaos, I glimpsed a glimmer of camaraderie within the SLA. We were bounded by a shared purpose, a common belief that we were agents of change in a world that had turned a blind eye to our suffering. The day of reckoning finally arrived. The walls of the courtroom stood tall, their austere presence a stark contrast to the tumultuous journey that had led me here. As I sat in the defendant's seat, my heart raced, the weight of the charges against me bearing down with every passing moment. The trial began. A spectacle of legal prowess and public scrutiny. Prosecutors painted me as a criminal, an accomplice to the very crimes I once denounced. Their words stung, their accusations slicing through the air like daggers. But within me, a flicker of resilience burned bright, determined to reclaim my voice and assert my truth. The courtroom buzzed with the energy of anticipation. The judge's gavel struck the bench, and the trial began in earnest. Witnesses testified, their voices a chorus of judgment and speculation. The prosecution wove a web of evidence, attempting to weave my actions into a narrative of guilt. Yet as their case unfolded, doubts lingered in the minds of the jurors, a seed of uncertainty taking root. My defense team, armed with a controversial strategy, aimed to unveil the truth behind my actions, a truth veiled by the shadows of manipulation and psychological coercion. The concept of brainwashing, an intangible force that could shatter the very foundation of my culpability, took center stage. Expert witnesses took the stand, their words a delicate dance between reason and psychology. They delved into the intricacies of the human mind, weaving a narrative of vulnerability and manipulation. The courtroom listened, their gaze shifting between the expert's testimony and my own face, searching for traces of truth in the depths of my eyes. I was under their control, I proclaimed, my voice firm and resolute. My actions were not of my own volition, but a result of the psychological hold the SLA had on me. The prosecution scoffed, their skepticism palpable. They sought to undermine the credibility of my claims, to paint me as a cunning conspirator rather than a victim of circumstances beyond my control. The tension in the courtroom reached its apex, the clash of opposing narratives echoing in every corner. As the trial drew to a close, the judge's final words rang in my ear like a distant echo. "Guilty," he declared, his voice resonating with the weight of the decision. The room fell into heavy silence, the collective gasp of disbelief hanging in the air. But the story did not end there. The judge, perhaps swayed by the complexities of my case, delivered a surprising twist. He commuted my sentence, a glimmer of leniency in a sea of uncertainty. 7 years reduced to a mere fraction of what I had once faced.